So the true statements for me are mixed both of internal experience and external information. And in this mixture, I understand this internal experience as being rather metaphysical, and the external being rather empirically physical. And it's a mix of both. The truth statement is a mix of both. And I was talking to a preacher a few years ago. I think I talked about this a couple months ago. But I talked to this preacher years ago, and I told him that I discovered that for me, it helped me to understand the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Because a friend was telling me, wrap wisdom around your neck, wrap wisdom around your neck. And he was just regurgitating these statements that he had heard, but he really didn't understand them. And the only reason why he was regurgitating these statements was to try and get me to talk about them and see what I thought about them. And then that way he didn't have to say, I don't know what wisdom is and I don't know what knowledge is. For his own reasons, he didn't want to tell me that he didn't know. He just would regurgitate these statements, and then the conversation would start, and then he would learn something without ever admitting he didn't know something. And I told him, I said, well, knowledge, it seems, is specific to a particular time and place. What I knew at 10 years old is not what I knew at 20, is not what I knew at 30, is not what I knew at 40. And I used the example of, you take a car and you throw it back in time, say, before they had cars, like when they had chariots, and they wouldn't know what a car is. However, wisdom, I told him, on the other hand, is always the same everywhere, is always understood everywhere. True wisdom is always understood everywhere. But the only way you can express wisdom is through myth, metaphor, parable, and symbol. And so, if you took a car back to when they had the chariots, you just say, well, this is the kind of chariot I have. And then they would understand, oh, it's a vehicle, of transportation, that kind of thing. But the wisdom is different than the knowledge. And the reason why I separated them was that some people, the reason why I separated them was because I understood that people will use wisdom for their own ego-centered self-aggrandizement and use knowledge for their own ego-centered self-aggrandizement. They will make use of these things not as they are, but as they would have them be for their own achievement of a goal. This is why verbiage became very, very important to me. How do people use their verbs? What verbs do people use? So I can see their intention. And what that asks of me, it comes rather natural, but what that asks of me is to empathize with their intent, to empathize with their values. How are they evaluating these things? Oh, these things have value in a relationship to their goal. So they're using this knowledge or this wisdom to achieve a goal. And I thought this was very interesting because being someone that comes internally and has this depth experience within myself, knowledge and wisdom are secondary. They're not primary. They are only tools. They are not the prime cause itself. We are the prime cause. And people make use of terms and phrases and wisdom and knowledge, as I've separated them, for their own goals. And this became very, very interesting to me because I was amazed at how blind certain people could be to very certain things. And I was really impressed with how strongly someone can resist coming to knowledge of something, as if refusing that bit of knowledge, that bit of factual, empirical information, to be integrated into their life. All these things were very, very important to me because I had been faced with them over and over and over. And in order to get on in life, I was required to conform to a certain standard of behavior, and I needed to understand that behavior. I needed to know why that behavior was important. And having this depth of knowledge as to where these things came from within myself gave me an understanding as to how things came about in the external world. And it's a work in process. It's a working hypothesis. I know that about myself, so as not to project too much of my own stuff onto others, which may very well hold more truth than what I may be perceiving at the time. So all these things are players going on in my life, and I needed to learn these things because events occurred to which I needed to understand my role that I was playing in life so that I could have a place in life, in my own life. Have a good day.